Videos on daily quests, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on parts of this that we've talked about a lot before because you should have already done these problems. So there are steps here that I might skip. If you have questions on what those steps are or processes, you have to let me know because it is your responsibility to make sure you have this content mastered before the quiz and the test. So, in this unit, we learned to graph functions using a table. For the problem below, create a table using 5 ordered pairs and graph the line using a ruler. Now, there are 2 ways to make this table. The first way is using my 5 values of x, which is -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. The others table that you can make is looking at the denominator of our fraction, which in this case is 4, and then you make the table by going -8 and -4, 0, 4, and 8. You should get the same line both ways, but one of them will have some decimals in it, but smaller numbers, so it's definitely a trade. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to work through these problems and fill out the tables and then talk about them after. As you can see from these tables, we had a lot of decimals involved. So if I did each of these problems, -3/4 times my x value, and then subtracted 5, I end up getting either the table on the left, if I was okay with decimals, or the table on the right. Now, personally, I like the table on the left because these x values are always the same. But if I decided to graph this information, I should be getting the same line both ways. Okay, so then there, and there. Okay, and if I ended up graphing the other line, I should be getting the same thing as well. Now, it's a little bit tricky to draw the line on this program, but it should look something like this. Okay? We've done that a lot. There's decimals involved, but we've covered it. Okay? Another thing to remember, if our slope is -3/4, every time I decrease with the one on the left, I should be going down by 0.75 because that's our slope, which in this case we are. Now, for our line, which is y equals -3/4 x minus 5, we can also use the slope-intercept form, which is, of course, y equals mx plus b, or y equals mx plus b. Anyway, so the point of this is to find the slope, which is m, and to find the y-intercept, which is b. We can use that to then graph almost immediately. Well, in this problem, our slope is the m, which is -3/4, or rise -3 and run 4. And our b is -5, which is the ordered pair 0, -5. To graph this, I start at -5, and I go down 3 and over 4. I could do that again. Or I could go up 3 and back 4. It should give me the same information both ways. Now, if you notice, this line that I just made actually includes all of the points on the right side table. So the reason why you skip count by the denominator is what you're actually doing is using the slope to find the next ordered pair. So if you get comfortable with these problems, you can actually do the second problem first and use that to make the table for the first problem. Let's do a couple more. So in this unit, we learned to graph functions using a table. For the problem below, create a table using 5 ordered pairs and then graph the line using a ruler. So for these problems, I once again want to use the table that I've always used, which is x is -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. But this time, when I plug in the x, I'm plugging it into the equation. So I would get 4 times -2 is -8, plus 1y equals -6. And then I have to solve this equation. And we've solved equations thousands of times, I think, by this point. So that makes this y value 2. Now what I want you to do is to solve the rest of these equations. I'm going to pause the video and do it as well. So I plugged each of these into the equation. I showed one more step here. And I ended up solving to get this table. And if I graphed, it would look something like this. And then from here, I make my line. Actually not been too bad for this video. Sometimes they're a lot worse. And there is our answer. And we have one problem left. So we have to solve our problem, but we have to turn it into slope-intercept form first, which means we need to solve this equation for y, which is what we just learned how to do in the last video. So we need y by itself because we need y equals something. Well, the thing that's on the same side as the y is 4x's. So I'm going to subtract 4x's from both sides. So I'm going to get 1y equals, now in this case we have boys and girls at a dance. The boy can come stand next to the girl, but there is absolutely no touching. Okay, so we have negative 4x minus 6. The two numbers are standing next to each other, but not touching, which is good. It's the way Mr. Schmidt runs the dance. Now, I could divide by 1 here, or I could remember that dividing by 1 doesn't change the problem. So I actually have my equation complete. I have y equals mx plus b. Then I need to find my m and my b and finish solving this problem. So my slope is negative 4, or negative 4 over 1. My b is negative 6. And now to graph this line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I graph my y-intercept, and then I graph my slope. Now I can't keep going down this way, so I'm going to go up 4, back 1. And I can do that as many times as I possibly can. And I graph my line. And look at that. We ended up getting the same line in both problems, which is definitely how it's supposed to be. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know.